will do as we go through this, the same as the other training sessions that you've done, please jump in, ask questions as we go along. Otherwise, there'll be more time at the end for questions as well. Fantastic. So let's get into it. So today we're up to training session 13, and the topic is accounts payables payments. So just to recap where we're up to. So last week with Melita, I think it was on Thursday, you did training session 12, which was all about how to enter an invoice into Premier, i.e. AP processing. So today we're going to continue on that theme and actually now today learn how do we actually pay invoices in Premier. So that's where we're up to. Specifically in terms of today and what we're going to go through, I'll start off with a little bit of a recap about the AP workflow and invoice entry, and then we'll really quickly dive into those basically payments. So we'll look at the payment methods and how you actually do a payment run and then like send your remittances and actually get the funds to your suppliers or your vendors. So that'll be the first section of today's training session. After that, we'll go into a few other sundry or ad hoc items that are still related to payments. So I'll talk about something called the quick entry and payment method, also cancelling payments, reversing payments, bank transfer. So lots of other little items that I'm sure at some stage you will need to do in Premier. The last section of today is all about reporting relating to accounts payable. Hopefully that sounds good with everyone. Feel free to jump in with questions. Otherwise, I use the chat bar and I'll keep a watch on that as well. So let's get into it. So first of all, just a bit of a recap in terms of the accounts payable workflow. So this is the same slide that you saw in the previous session. So I like to break down accounts payable into 3 high-level main steps. So every day you're receiving AP invoices. So they're coming into your business and they could come in a variety of ways. When you receive those invoices, you're entering them in for the system. Now, once you enter them in the system, you can do a number of things with them. That will depend on your internal processes. More than commonly, or most common, is that you'll send the invoices for approval. So people will see them in that approve AP invoice, their inbox. Then after that, they'll approve them. And once they approve them, you'll be able to find them in posted AP invoices. What we want to do today is we want to focus on sort of fast forward on whether you do payment runs on a weekly, fortnightly, end of month basis, mid-month, etc. We want to understand how you actually pay invoices in Premier. So I break this down into 2 steps, but they sort of happen almost at the same time or straight after in quick succession. So when you come to that point in the week or the month that you need to do a payment run, you first of all have to set up the payment run and select the invoices for payment. So, or to be included in that payment run. So we're going to look at in a moment a screen called New Payment Run. Once you've done that and you're happy with all the invoices you've selected, then you can process the payment or issue the payment. And depending on how you're actually making that payment, most common is probably direct deposit or electronic payments. You'll use one of these 2 screens here. So we'll step through that step as well. So that's where we're going today. Now, just before we get into the payment run and exactly how you pay invoices, I want to go through and talk about these various payment methods in Premier. So let's jump to the next slide. So hopefully this is a bit of a good sort of cheats guide to payment methods in Premier. Please refer back to this one. So I break it down into 5 different payment methods in Premier. So this is when you use what. Now, I know a lot of you use electronic payments and use like generate a bank file, so an ABA file. You'd also know that as. So when we want to generate an ABA file in Premier, you want to use the direct deposit methodology. So we'll see that once in a moment. We'll go into Premier and you'll see where you see like all these names or options. So direct deposit, choose that one if you want to generate an ABA file. Any other time you are doing an electronic payment, so transmitting funds electronically, but you do not need an ABA file. So for example, you might be paying an invoice in foreign currency. It might be a direct debit that came out of your bank account yesterday. It might be a BPay payment. It might be a one-off payment that like an urgent one, so you don't set it up. It's not bulk payment. Any other time there's electronic payments, use the payment method called online payment. So that's those two. These are the most common two that you will use. The third type that you may use as well is if you pay via like a corporate credit card, use the payment method called credit card. Pretty self-explanatory there. The other two methods that you're going to see in Premiere, and I highly expect that you will never use them, so please ignore them. There is one called check and there is one called manual. Now, check stands for computerized checks, as in you want to print checks out. Manual stands for manual checks, i.e. you want to handwrite them. So very rarely in Australia do we use checks. So I think the majority of people here, you don't have checks, books, etc. So please ignore these. Do not choose check or manual. So I often come across clients go, oh, I'm doing a manual payment is what they think in their head. So they come and choose this one, not realizing it's manual check. In that instance, if you're doing a manual payment, what you want to do, it's probably, I assume, an electronic payment. You want to choose online payment if it's just a once-off electronic payment. Is that clear to everyone? Is there any questions at all? Happy for you to give me a thumbs up or comment in the chat bar if you don't want to come off on mute. Okay, I'll assume all's good and let's.
Sorry, Robin.
Yeah,
Sorry, Robin. Would we be able to take it off if we're never going to use it?
What do you mean? Take it off as in just not have these options?
Yeah, have the options there.
Yeah, no, you can't. So Premiere, so you can't, in terms of Premiere in your environment, you can't go ahead and like customize your environment in that way. So these methods in a moment on the screen, you're going to see like these 5 different options there. Every client who uses Premiere sees these 5 different options. So just keep in mind that Premiere is used in other countries besides Australia. So for example, it's heavily used in Canada and America and some European nations. So over in America, they still use lots and lots of checks. So over there, it's quite common for them to use these check methods here. Whereas Australia, as you know, we use more electronic payments. So that's why all of these options are available. And unfortunately, no, like you can't say in my environment, I only want to show these options, because any changes we make, that's what like the design of the screen and those options, that's what you see amongst like every single client. Is that clear?
Yeah. I just asked if we could possibly remove the print checks because we're never using them. Yeah. She said we've got to make sure that we don't select that when making payments.
Exactly. It's pretty, in a moment, as I say, I'm about to go to the screen. That's the next thing we're going to do. And as I say, I just really emphasize this, so to try and, as I say, a cheats guide, because that way you can just go, I'm just going to focus on these 3 or even 2 if you don't use credit cards. So just trying to make it simple for you. Perfect. Excellent. So as I said, let's jump into actually creating the payment run. So on this screen and the next screen, sorry, jump in if there's any more questions too. No, all good. So yeah, these next few slides, I've got step by step on how you do this. That being said, it'll make a lot more sense if we go over to Premiere. So let's go across to Premiere. As usual, I'm in my sort of training environment here. So all just example dummy data here. So where we want to go is processing menu here, accounts payable. You'd already be familiar with the vendor screen, the new AP invoices screen. So this is step 1. Step 2, we're about to go into that new payment run screen. Step 3 will be actually making the payment like we talked through before. And so then this is effectively step 3. This is where you're seeing all of those options and screens. Now, I'm an admin user, so I'm seeing all these screens. So in relation to that question before, depending on how your user's been set up and what access you have, potentially you might only see those 3 screens there. You won't even see these 2 screens there. So just keep that in mind. So that is one way you can sort of control that, or it can help that a little bit. So let's go into step 2, which is that new payment run screen. So hopefully you find this pretty self-explanatory. So let's go through and say, yep, we're preparing a payment run for today. Or let's say I'm getting organized for the week. I'm doing a mid-month payment run, and maybe the funds are going to go out of my bank account tomorrow. If it was the latter situation, you want to make sure that payment date always agrees to when the funds are leaving your bank account. So if I was getting organized and doing it for a payment run tomorrow, I'd enter the 14th. Whereas what I'm going to do, I'm going to just do it as of today, so hence the 13th. This is the other place you see that payment method. So this is where I was saying in the drop down. So that's where I'm saying ignore the one that says manual, ignore the one that says check, and we're going to do direct deposit. It's going to be that direct deposit and online payment. They're the two that you'll use most commonly. So that's, yeah, where I'm just saying to try and simplify it, or any users doing payment runs, that's what you want to focus on. This next section here, just where I'm hovering over, this is your filters. So depending internally on your processes and how you select your invoices for payment, whether you do just one payment run or you do lots of little ones because you've got different criteria, that'll influence what you select here. Now, I'll talk you through this. So first of all, you've got your due date. So let's say I was doing a payment run today and I wanted to pay, my next one's not until Monday. So I wanted to pay everything due before Monday. I could put Monday's date in there. Or maybe I've had a phone call from Bunnings, our account's been put on hold because we're overdue. I could come here and say, filter on this, type in Bunnings and say, which I don't have, let's say it's Officeworks. I probably have that in here. Yep. So I could say, show me all Officeworks invoices if that was the case. Or maybe I just want to pay for a particular job. So show me all invoices relating to a job and so on. So you can see those various filters there. In this instance, though, I'm just going to leave this totally blank and say, show me all invoices that are outstanding. So I clicked on that button. What it then shows me down the bottom is it shows me any invoices that are outstanding. So think back to last week when you talked about invoices. Each invoice has a status. So once the invoice is posted and those costs have hit the GL and the job, it will move to an O/S status, so outstanding. So this article here, so you can search this on the knowledge base. This goes through all of these statuses. So that O/S status there. So with that, the payment run draws through anything that's outstanding. If, for example, the invoice is on hold, it will not bring it through. It will not allow you to pay it. So this is a great article. Have a read of this. Make sure you understand it. The other thing, it will not bring through any invoices if they're sitting in another payment run. So let's say you had multiple payment runs set up, then it, wouldn't bring through other ones because obviously it doesn't want invoices double paid in that scenario. So at this point, what do? We now go through, review this and choose which invoices I want to pay. Quite easy. We tick the pay box here. So what I'm doing, I'm just choosing some randomly and let's scroll down. So this is one of the screens. As you scroll, it will save it. So you don't have to constantly hit save. Obviously at the end, though, you can. So I'm choosing some invoices there. Now, let's say I'm going to include this one, but I've looked at this invoice. Now, if I want to see the details of that invoice, there is a hyperlink there. So I can click on that. It will then drill down and show me that one of the reports, it's called an invoice inquiry report, shows me all the details of that invoice. If I had attached a document, so put a soft copy of the invoice, it would show here. So I haven't in this instance, but if I had, I could click on it, I could open up a copy of the invoice and I could see the details. And yeah, basically shows me everything about that invoice. So I could come back here and I could, once I've looked at that, maybe I've said, I don't want to pay the full 25 grand. Maybe I just want to pay 10 grand. So if you want to do a part payment, you can overtype. It'll default to the remaining amount, but you can just type the amount in there. Any questions so far? I'm just going to hit save on my payment run as well. Obviously, I won't bore you with continually selecting invoices. The other thing you can do as you're choosing invoices, let's say I wanted to go through and I just want to find these distinct joinery invoices. I don't have to scroll. I can start using these filters or funnels. So if I want to find, okay, all the ones that are beyond 60 days, I could filter on that. So you can start filtering any which way, whatever works for you there. Now, once I get to a point that I'm happy with the invoices that I've selected, down the bottom here, I can see, okay, I'm going to pay about 19 grand. On screen, it's actually showing me about 200 grand worth of invoices. Other things you can do at any stage, I can hit payment run report. Now, some people might generate this before you finalize things because maybe you want to take it to a manager, or otherwise you can actually email it to a manager. So you can click on that. It'll create an email with the hyperlink. You could send this through to your manager. So you could send that off and you could get them to review it. Now, when they're reviewing it, once again, they can go through. There's hyperlinks on this. So if they're logged in, they can click on that and it goes down to that invoice inquiry. So if they need to see any of that documentation, if they need to know who approved it, etc., it's got all that detail there, which is fantastic. I'll just close down those screens. The other thing is that payment run report. I definitely recommend running it once you've finalized your payment run, because that's what you can use as your source documentation for basically to support your ABA file when people are authorizing it in the banking software there. Other things you might like to do, I'll just point out these. Now, let's say we're going through this and we realize, oh, we've mucked things up. We don't want this payment run. We're not doing it. We can come to more actions and say delete payment run. So we can do that. The other thing I can do is if you're in a scenario where you're doing multiple payment runs, like on one day, let's just say I was doing one payment run, Melita's doing another one. Obviously, this is brought through all like outstanding invoices. Let's say Mel's doing some type of special payment run for ABS bricklaying. Now, right now, she's not going to be able to, these invoices won't show up in her payment run because they're sitting here and the system doesn't know, am I going to pay them or, yeah, am I or not? It's in a state of limbo essentially until I finalize this. So if I wanted to say, oh, release these so Mel could pick them up in her payment run, I could come here and say remove unselected invoices and automatically it would like release all of the unselected ones back into that pool. Is that making sense? And does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, we'll continue on. So what I'll do now, let's finalize step 2. So once we're happy, these are the invoices that we're paying. We don't need to make any further changes. What I can do is click that post payment run. Now, just before I do that though, let's say I go to lunch and so I log out of Premiere and then after lunch, I come back and I'm like, or let's say I'd sent this to my manager and so I'm waiting on my manager to say, yep, that's all good, happy to go ahead. If that's the scenario, and maybe I'd logged out of Premiere in that time or closed down, how do I find this payment run again? To find it, we go to a screen called Pending Payment Run. So if I open up this screen here, you'll see in my system, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, there's lots of old payment runs here. So you can see these are from a while ago. So let's say I could open up that one there, choose which run it is in case I had multiple. There's my payment run. You can see it looks exactly the same. If I now, maybe my manager said, oh, don't pay that one, I could untick it and then I could go ahead and finalize it. What I would recommend is that you regularly check this screen called pending payment runs. So have a look. You do not want this scenario where you have lots of old historical ones here. The reason for that is, like I said before, when things are sitting in a pending status, think of it sort of in limbo. It's sitting there, the information is sitting there in the system, and the system is waiting for you to tell it what to do with the information. Like, are you going to pay this? Are you not going to pay this? So always review this, and if you're not, you either want to post it and finalize things or come to here, more actions, and delete the payment run if you're not proceeding with it. So we'll just close that down. Let's come back to the payment run we were doing. And what I'm going to do now is click that post payment run. Once we click that, it checks, are you sure you want to go ahead? Yes, I am. Now, what you will see, it will release all those other invoices I didn't choose. So they now release back into that pool, and the system does that automatically. It says, yep, it's all finalized. Basically what it's done, nothing has hit the GL, job, anything like that. No accounting entries has been done. All that it's done is it's locked these 8, 10 invoices into this payment run, and it knows today you're going to pay these invoices. So that's the end of step 2. Any questions at all? Okay, we'll go straight on to step 3, and this is where we issue the payment. So we actually release the funds, issue the money, we pay our suppliers, and they're happy. Now, steps 2 and 3 are pretty seamless. So once you've finished things here, easiest way to do it is once you've clicked that post payment run, you click pay selected invoices. By doing that, it will automatically open the relevant screen. So back here, we chose direct deposit, so it opens the direct deposit screen. It shows me my payment run up there. If I drop this down, you can see here historical payment runs. You can see these are all paid ones, but that one there actually hasn't been finalized. Once again, not good practice. You wouldn't have a payment run, or you shouldn't have a payment run that's a month old and hasn't been finalized. The next thing, so it'll default to that. The next thing you need to do, now I only have one bank account, so it's chosen, defaulted to that. If you have multiple bank accounts, you need to choose the bank account that you're paying from. It shows all my details down here of the invoices and suppliers or vendors that I'm paying. The other thing you'll note is this status here. So talking of those invoice statuses, once a payment invoice has been locked into a payment run, it changes from an outstanding status to an okay to pay status. Once we're happy with all of that, pretty easy in terms of what we need to do from here. We can click post payments. Are you sure you're ready to record these invoices as paid? Yes. Now, an order report is going to pop up. It's going to debit my trade creditors for 19 grand, credit my bank account for 19 grand. And if I click OK on that, now all these invoices are paid. So from a system perspective, Premier basically thinks all of these invoices are done, dusted, they're paid. However, you and I obviously know that we still have to grab our ABA file and upload it to your banking software, whether that be ANZ, Combiz, so on. So how do we do that? We come down here and we say generate a bank file. So we click on that. Automatically, Premier is going to download a file, the ABA file. So that's what it's doing at the moment. So we'll open up that. So here's my ABA file. I'll just bring it over. So there's my ABA file. Obviously, I can save that. I can upload it to my banking software. You can then give your payment report to your authorizing signatories and they can approve it. The funds are released. The vendors are happy. The other thing more than likely you're going to want to do is your remittance advice. You're going to want to email that out. So I'll just show you initially. I'm going to actually choose the option print, which you probably won't do. I'm purely doing this just so that Premier generates the remittance advices and you can see what they look like as a bit of a sample. So it'll open up a PDF document with all the remittance advices for the 7, 8, however many vendors there are. Now this is all in one file because we're printing it. The system's thinking I want to go and actually physically print it out on a printer and send them out in a mail. So that's what this file is. Now, this is a standard form, so please try this process out in your environment. Have a look at the remittance advice. Make sure you're happy with it. If not, it is a form. You can edit it, you can tweak it, you can change it as desired there. Alternatively, if you come to print remittance advice and then click email, it'll pop up with a dialog box. So it has default text there. You can come here, you can change that to whatever text you want. And then once you hit send, what will happen is an email will be sent to each of these vendors. So back on the vendor screens, it'll be sent to that default email address there. So those emails will go out. Each of your vendors will get an email with an attachment and have the PDF attachment, obviously, of just their remittance advice with those details. So they've all gone out. So that is how we pay invoices in Premier and we do our payment run. Has anyone got any questions at all? No? Okay. I'll continue on. Just before we do, we talk about our quick entry and payment method. I'll just come back. What I wanted to do under the processing menu, accounts payable, I just wanted to open up the online payment screen and also the credit card screen so you can see where I'm accessing those from. Just to show you, so if we drop down and we get a previous one here, well, this one's actually outstanding. So that's where I can choose which bank account I want to do it from. You can see the screen is exactly the same. The only thing, it doesn't have a button of generate bank file. Same idea with the online payment. I can choose a past paid one there. Same thing. This is paid, so that button is grayed out. If I go to this outstanding one, I could post the payment and then I could send a remittance advice if I wanted to. So just keep that in mind. Okay, coming back to the quick entry and payment method. So this is a process that I would strongly recommend you utilize in Premier, and it can be extremely useful in a number of scenarios. So typically when you would use what I call the quick entry and payment method is when you're entering an invoice and you know it already has been paid or it's about to be paid. So scenarios of that is if you get into work today, and let's say you look at your bank statement and there's direct debits from yesterday. That means you need to enter those invoices and then pay them. Similarly, credit cards. You see credit card transactions. Well, those invoices, they're invoices, costs, they've already been paid, so you can just process them. Other ones are maybe like a BPay payment. Someone comes to you urgently or a foreign currency saying, we need to urgently pay this. So this might be a scenario of where you use this quick entry method. So let's go across to Premiere and I'll show you this in more detail. So we'll close down a few screens here. Okay, so how we do this is we start off with the new AP payment, new AP invoicer screen that you're already familiar with. So we can come here and let's say I'm looking at my bank statement. I had a direct deposit yesterday for a magazine subscription or I don't know, an Officeworks invoice or something. So whatever it might be, or I urgently need to pay an invoice. So let's choose Officeworks, an invoice number. Let's say the date might be earlier this week. Now, the other thing that I haven't done is transaction date defaults to today. Let's say I should have updated that to yesterday's date because we're saying that we saw it's come out of our bank account yesterday. So I'll put it as yesterday date because that's when I want the cost to hit the GL. In terms of coding, let's choose an account here and let's say it's for $200. So there's my invoice there. Now, in this scenario, what we would do is you might be used to sending the invoices for approval. That is the only thing with the quick entry and payment method. You can't send them for approval. So this is where this scenario works really well for invoices that have had some type of pre-approval. So if you think about direct debits or credit cards, you've obviously like already signed a contract or something like that prior, like a direct debit schedule. So you've got all those details. So effectively by signing that schedule, you've already agreed or approved all of those costs. The same with a credit card. Usually people have that authorization. So that's with the quick entry method and payment, we can't, we have to bypass the approval process there. What we want to do is just straight away post the batch. So you can see it's in pending status at the moment. Let's post this. Audit report will come up. We'll see our debits and credits, and that status there moves to outstanding. Now, this is where the quick, that was the quick entry. Now this is the quick payment side of it. So the reason we can't send it for approval is because then once we post it, we have the option to pay the invoices. So this button is now interactive. So if we click on that, we can now choose how was this invoice paid. So let's say it was a direct debit on my bank account yesterday. Let's choose online payment then. Group payment doesn't matter too much in this instance, but just always use the default of vendor. What bank account do I want to pay it from? Choose my bank account. When was it paid? It'll default to that transaction date. So hence why I updated that. Now I'm going to click OK in a moment. Before I do, just watch what happens with that status. So I click OK. The system is actually going through and doing all the hard work for me. In the background, it has created the payment run. You saw it move to OK to pay, and then it's posted the payment run. So now I get an audit report saying credit to my bank account for $220 and trade creditors or AP control. That invoice is all paid. It's done, dusted. And in a matter of a couple of minutes, I've entered that invoice and paid it. So that's why I call that the quick entry and payment method. Any questions on that and thoughts? Is that something that you think you'll use in your organization and business? Okay, I'll take that as hopefully all good or straightforward. The other thing I'll just mention with this is when you're using the quick entry and payment method, so you can enter, so if I came into work and there was a lot of like direct debits from yesterday, I could enter in, let's say, 3 invoices. And I could do it all in one batch, so long as I'm paying those invoices all on the same date and via the same method from the same bank account. Okay, so let's go on to a few other sundry items that these type of items, I'm sure you'll need them at some stage when mistakes or things change and you need to then reflect those transactions in Premiere. So I mention them now and potentially when it pops up, you might forget how to do these things. So just reach out to us and we can guide you on what screens and how you do this. The first one is reverse payment run. So this occurs, if you think about your processes, it occurs between steps 2 and 3. So once you lock in, like select your invoices for payment and lock them into a payment run, and let's say you're just waiting, let's say we prepared that payment run today, but we're not actually paying it till tomorrow. So we don't, back in Premiere here, on the new payment run screen, think about this. If we came along, we went post payment and then, but we didn't hit pay select invoices straight away because maybe we're waiting till things have actually definitely been finalized for tomorrow. Now, let's say something changed sort of last minute, 11th hour, and maybe my manager says, oh, can you, delete, an invoice or something like that from your payment, like you exclude an invoice. There's a screen called reverse payment run. So I'll see, we've got some here. So let's just choose, I might just choose this one. What this happens, so if I say reverse payment run, because it hasn't been paid, but we've locked the invoices into payment, we can say reverse posting. Are you sure you want to reset the payment run to pending? Yes, I am. It's now reset. So that was the 9th. So now we can do pending payment run screen. And we should see here. We'll just refresh the drop downs because we've got one, it was on the 9th of April. So there's my payment run there. We'll choose that. And so then let's say for some reason we didn't want to include this invoice, we could untick it. Then we could post payment run and then keep on going. So that's why we could remove things, or maybe I don't want that. They've told me don't pay it at all. I could come to more actions and I could say, right, let's delete this payment run and totally get rid of it because those invoices shouldn't get paid yet. That's the scenario there. So that's reverse payment run. Another scenario is cancel payments. So let's say you've done your payment run. Most common scenario is we do that payment run today. Then let's say later this week, you come into the office and you see you had wrong bank details. So a payment has bounced. That's where cancel payments comes into play. Now, you can cancel a payment 2 ways in Premiere or from 2 screens. There is a screen called cancel payment. Okay, so what you can do, you can search for your payments. So I'll just keep it easy and go all, but you can filter further. And so you can see up here, here's some of the ones that I paid with you earlier today. So we could say, okay, there's something wrong with this invoice. It bounced, the bank details were wrong. Click on cancel payment there. What date? It'll default to the same date, which is usually what you want, unless it's taken a few days to be returned, and basically you want to match that with the date the funds come back into the bank account if it's that bounce scenario. Could put a comment there, but don't have to. Click OK. What will happen is an audit report pops up and the system has gone through and reversed the transaction. So it's debited back the money back to the bank account. That invoice now is outstanding. So what that means is we can actually go through it's outstanding. So I can now go to vendors, update my bank details here. And then the next time I'm doing my payment run, I could include that invoice for payment. The other way I can cancel a payment is there is a screen called posted AP payments. So once again, let's just go search on this. And this shows me all those payments. If I go to this one, because that's the one I just did with you, it shows me down the bottom. Here's my original payment. There's a few details there actually, because I've obviously partially paid it there. And then I did that payment there. You can see though it's cancelled. So if I went to another one, let's say this one for Bunnings, I could then go cancel payment from this screen as well. It works exactly the same way. It just has a bit more detail, this screen. So you can choose either screen. Once again, like if I wanted to look at the details of that invoice, I can click on it. And in this instance, it drills down to the posted AP invoices screen. And from there, I can go through, I can look at the approval log. If an invoice was attached, I could open the invoice and so on. Any questions from anyone at the moment? Okay, we'll continue on then. So the last item, just talking about, I guess, payments, transferring money, etc. I wanted to talk about a screen called bank transfers in Premiere. Now, this screen you don't have to use, but I would recommend it. It makes your life a lot easier, especially if you have multiple bank accounts and you're often transferring money between them. So even something as simple as paying off your credit card. So transferring from your main operating transactional account through to your credit card each time you do payments. So let me show you how this works. We'll just close down a few screens. Close down all those other tabs. So we want to go under the processing menu, bank management, and then bank transfers funds. So what we do, we click add, and let's say we're paying off our credit card. We come here from our transaction account. We want our credit card. There's my credit card. Maybe today I'm paying $500 and it's today. So let's just do today's date. Credit card payment. So you can see it's pending at the moment. Once I'm happy with that, I can just go post. The system will then go through, create the journal. It'll debit and credit the two relevant bank accounts, and that's all done and dusted. So it makes it really easy because you don't have to think about, what you're debiting, what you're crediting, what GL accounts. You just choose your bank accounts there. So hopefully you like that feature. Okay, so the very last section and item that I wanted to go through today is reporting and how it relates to accounts payable. So the intention here is as you work through Premiere, you get some data in your environment, basically, and then think about once you're live with Premiere, you're using Premiere for your first month and second end of month. You're going to need to run reports and you're going to want to find information in Premiere. So how do you do that? Now, I understand right now this might be sort of front of your mind. So what I like to do in these sessions is to go through the related reports to the module at the time. This way, it starts creating a little bit of awareness and you start getting an idea of what's available in Premiere. You can have a play. And then, as I say, once you get to your first and second end of month, please reach out to us if you can't find a report or you're not sure how to do something. Similarly, right now, have a think about what reports you rely on for end of month. What reports do you always run? How are you going to do that in Premiere? So let's jump into Premiere. These are some of the reports that I'm going to take you through. So over in Premiere, we go under the reports menu here and then accounts payable. You can see a list of the various reports available. So we'll go through some of the more common ones and I'll start running these off so you can see what they look like. The first one, let's look at the aged payables report. Now, with all reports, when you run them, you've got different styles or ways you can run the report. So you can see here, for this one, we can run it in a detail or summary way, and then by various filters as well. So I'll leave it in detail. Now, I'm not going to apply any extra filters, but for example, if you wanted to go through, actually I might put these ones on and say, show me the job name and the date, the due date, etc. Let's not do only subcontract, but let's say you only wanted invoices or outstanding invoices related to a certain job. You could do that. Also look at the advanced parameters in case you wanted to see other invoices relating to certain purchase categories. So there's lots of ways you can slice and dice these reports if need be. I'll leave it like that. We'll run the report and this will load. And what you'll be able to see from this report is it basically lists my vendors with all the outstanding invoices there, the different parameters, and then groups it into your 30, 60, 90-day buckets there. Now, with all the reports, do have a look for those hyperlinks. So you can see here, if I wanted more details on this invoice, I can click on it. It drills down. So the hyperlinks will always drill down to a related screen or report, depending on what item it is. So that's where, like I said before, now I can have a look at this. I can say, oh, here you go. Let's look at it. We want to see a copy of the invoice. I can click on that. It'll now open that invoice and I can look at those details there. So that's my aged payables report. Obviously, with the aged payables report, as a highly recommended mandatory thing, I would always run this at end of month state. And you should be looking at the total on this report and then reconciling that to your GL to make sure end of every month, everything's reconciled in agreement and there's no issues there. The other report you should be doing that for is if you have a retention payable or retention relating to your subcontractors. you should always run this report. So once again, I can run this by detail or summary, and you've got various options. So we'll just run it like that. And then what this will show me, because I've done it by job, it'll show me each job here, the various vendors. It's got the details of the invoices. And for example, this one here, I've withheld $250. And then if you see a red negative number, usually it means that then I've released or I've paid retention. So for that, you can see I still owe this vendor for that job $50. Once again, you should run this report and you should make sure that total agrees to your retention payable account. So that's absolutely critical, especially at end of month. Now, when I'm running these, I haven't been putting on a date, but that's where you could put in like 30th of April if that was the case. The other thing with reports, and this goes for all reports as well, when you run these, you're able to print them afterwards. So whether that's physically print them or like print to PDF, you can click on the Excel button. And if that's you click on that, it will then download an Excel version of it that you can then put into Excel if you want to do other things with it. Or you saw earlier, you can click on that email button. It creates a hyperlink in an email, and then you can send that email to anyone. It then just opens up with basically a web page. So the user who you send it to does not have to have Premier access. They're not logging into your environment. It's just a web page, and then they can view the details of the report. Okay, so let's come back to the reports. AP. So other items you might be interested in. So we've looked at those payment run report today. The payment report, you can have a look at that. Like if you want to go through and looking at a particular vendor or job and all the payments that have been made there. So you can see here by vendor. You can choose those details. If you're drilling into, I guess if you have a specific question or you're trying to understand something, payment report basically will show that listing of historical payments there. Other reports that'll be useful, let's look at the vendor inquiry and then also the AP invoice registry report. So this vendor inquiry, this is particularly useful, definitely one that clients use. So let's just go with ABS Bricklaying. You've got these various filters here. So I'm going to turn all of these on. So you can do certain dates as well, but let's just go with that at the moment. So I'm just doing one vendor just to sort of limit my detail there. What this shows me, it shows me for that vendor, these are all my paid invoices, and you can see the various details there. Then what is outstanding? What is pending but hasn't been sent for approval? What's pending, waiting for approval? It's also got details of all those payments there. So similar to before, I could start clicking on these and then it'll drill down to the relevant screen. So screen or report, depending on what information. So that vendor inquiry report, really useful to see a detail if you're analyzing one vendor and you want to see sort of all invoices relating to the vendor, then definitely have a look at that one there. Similar, but very slightly different is the AP invoice registry report. So this report will only show you invoices that have been posted in the system. It won't include invoices that are pending. So if I do ABS again, you can put dates or anything like that, and I just go view on that. It's a bit of a different layout. It still has all the particulars there, so you can see a list of all those invoices, invoice date, trans date, etc., and then split down to the net, the GST, the retention amount, and you can see the amount outstanding as well. So that's obviously gives you an indication of whether it's been paid or not. Is that something to give people an idea on the reports available there? And anything else you want to see? Just going to jump into the job dashboard as well. So from a project point of view, so let's go to, I'll pull up, let's go with this job here. We'll have a look. So if we have a look at one of our jobs from an AP perspective on the job dashboard, if say a project manager or a user is looking at this for their job, what they'll be able to see is over here, they'll be able to see what is the total amount of invoices outstanding for that job. So if they drilled on that, they would go down to the age payables report for that job. It'd be just filtered, showing just the invoices for that job. Similarly, another report is the pending AP invoices. So you can run this report off. So if they click on that, it'll run this report and it'll just show you a listing of all the invoices that are pending that haven't effectively hit the job yet, or GL, etc. If you were running this report independently. So if you want to run that report, you can just come over here and that's it there. Fantastic. I'll come back to the slides. So just before we wrap up, let's go through. We'll have a look over at your monday.com board. So on your board, if you go under session 13, after today's session, some of the items that I suggest to go through is definitely go through and try out doing a payment run. So try creating a payment run, posting it, and definitely do one if you use ABA or those bulk files. Please create some dummy invoices, create an ABA file, and actually try uploading that ABA file to your banking software. Once it's successfully in your banking software, then you can just delete it. Obviously, don't pay the invoices. The other thing is try sending some remittance advices for the vendor. When you're doing that on your vendor screen, you can just go to the vendor and then you can just go under the email address there, update one vendor to your email address. So update that to you and then send remittances for that vendor so that you get them. You can see what that process looks like. And then after that, obviously change it back there. So definitely try that. Try out the quick entry and payment method. And then if you want, you can have a look at like the posted AP invoice, payment screen, cancel payments, reverse payments, bank transfers. And you can also start reviewing the reports. So think about the end of month, what will you be using, or day to day, what do you need? And have a look at those reports so you get familiar with it. Fantastic. That's all I had for today. But if anyone has any further questions, then happy to take them. Otherwise, I hope you found that informative and useful.